Noon. Thanks so much for coming, especially the students who are Zooming in. We know your time is valuable, so thanks for spending your lunch hour with us. I'm Geraldine Kaleem. I'm our Student Services Librarian, and I'm joined today by Heather Simmons. She's our Associate Director for Instruction and Access Services, and also Savanna Nolan, who is our Instruction and Faculty Services Librarian. And we have a special guest, and I'm going to let Heather introduce her.
Well, I have a whole slide about Sarah coming up in a couple of slides, so we'll get to that in a minute. So our theme today is 6 tips in 3 parts, and we're sort of doing a countdown thing before you leave, when you get there, and as soon as you get a research assignment, how to be successful at whatever your summer placement is this summer. So before you leave, find out if where you're going has a law librarian. I'm sure you've already looked at their website. If they have a law library and a law librarian, by all means call and introduce yourself. Find out what their major resources are that you could start figuring out now. But if not, don't panic. We have Sarah.
Yay.
Sarah
Hi.
is currently the Dekalb County Law Librarian, but she has lots of prior experience at firms. So my question for you, Sarah, is if I'm at a smaller firm that doesn't have a law librarian, can I go to a county law library, and what can you do for me?
Absolutely, you can come to a county law library. We exist for the bench, bar, and public, and you are almost the bar. You aren't the bench, but you're definitely the public. So you're totally welcome to come. We have access to Westlaw, Lexis, we have print. We are heavily, our print is heavily Georgia, so we have some federal. So if you have a federal question, we're not going to be as great for you, but we also are professional law librarians. So we can provide you with we can help you think through your problem. We can help you identify what kind of sources might be useful for you. We can do, we can just help you. We can help you sort of figure out how to get to where it is you're going. I always ask people, where are you headed? And where do you want to go? So, and you know, we're excited to help anybody.
I am so excited to hear you say that you have Westlaw and Lexis available to the public, because that was the case in Maryland. That there was like one law library in Maryland that had access for DC. So I'm so happy. And actually some solo practice lawyers would actually pretty much just run their shop out of the Montgomery County Circuit Courthouse. So it's always good to know about those resources.
So find out as much as you can about where you're going and what they have. Lexis, Westlaw, and Bloomberg all have different policies about whether and how you're allowed to use your ID over the summer. And there's some ethical implications there, so you need to figure that out before you go. Make sure you ask the people you're working for what ID, if you want, if they prefer you to use their ID. And PACER is always a thing. PACER is the docket system for the federal court, and Bloomberg has a really nice interface that's much easier to use. So ask about that if that's a question for you.
And remember that PACER is only federal. State, we do have some resources. We have something called Beach Court, and we have something called Research, which is part of the an offshoot of the electronic filing system that's used in some counties. So ask what you're supposed to use, and if there's a librarian, they will definitely tell you how they expect you to do it. I always tell people, if you used your law school password for our work, you're stealing, unless you're specifically told to use your law school password. So don't steal.
Yes, it's an ethical issue, so make sure you understand what your rights and responsibilities are before you leave here. We can direct you to our account reps if you need to talk to them. And Savanna is going to talk about 50 state surveys.
So 50 state surveys are a very common project that are given to summer associates along with legislative history work and administrative legal research. It's very much a discrete task that your supervisor can say, go work on this, ask me if you have any questions. When I say 50 state survey, generally I'm talking about your supervisor will ask you, what is the state of a particular law in all 50 states, and usually the federal jurisdictions as well. And you'll see an example of it coming up here. There may already be a compiled legislative history for you in Hein Online or on other online sources. Sometimes you get lucky and some law library has put up a 50 state survey for free on their website. Usually that's very lucky. We also have some compiled in Hein Online. But I want to show you two kind of hidden tools that don't get a lot of promotion. And if all else fails, if you have to do it from scratch by yourself, please don't forget about your statute indexes. They can help you much faster than free text searching, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. So first, let's take a look at Westlaw's jurisdictional surveys. This is a hidden tool. In Westlaw, you'll click on that Tools tab, and then it's the Jurisdictional Surveys button right there. And then that will take you to this screen, and the most effective way to search that I have found is by looking for an index term. So how this was created was the Westlaw editors went through and tagged all of the different statutes with these index terms. So here I was looking for right to die laws, assisted suicide, issues that might vary from state to state. And I started typing it in, you can see right there, right to die law popped right up along with right to death. So I selected the right to die law, and then on the next slide, I clicked add, and that put it in that little thought bubble. And then I clicked create survey. And sometimes the terms are a little bit too broad and it will tell you there's too much, but this time when I created this survey, I found out that there were 51 relevant results in 11 states and the District of Columbia. So it is searching those tags that the editors put in, and it is pulling relevant statutes. I wouldn't trust this as a be-all end-all, but it's a great place to start. At the very least, I can search through my results, and you'll see what my results look like when I scroll down a little bit on the next slide. You scroll down, you can see the statutes themselves and where they are in the code, so you can see if it's a false positive or actually correct. It looks like this Alabama statute is pretty on. And that will help fill in at least the start of it. I still would go through the rest of the states, make sure I'm not missing anything, but it will cut the time on this project drastically.
And I find that if you do find a compiled history, or not a history, a compiled survey, often you might find one in a similar vein. It's probably not exactly what you're looking for, but you'll see it in a similar vein. And if nothing else, look at that, because it may give you the area of the area within the statutes for a jurisdiction to start.
Absolutely, and that's an excellent point. There may be other statutes in Alabama that are relevant that this didn't pull, even with this here. But I at least know that I want to look around in the table of contents in that chapter 8A. Or like Sarah said, if I have a compiled legislative history, I might want to update it. I might want to look around, make sure everything, again, organizing by subject is great because everything is right near each other.
And often what that'll help you do too is figure out how they refer to it in that state.
Yep.
Because every state has some weird thing about how they describe something. So even though, 40 of the states use this term, these other 10 use whatever wacky term they've chosen.
And we
Yeah, I
keep
came
saying
across that
legislative
with
history, but we really mean 50 state survey.
We do really mean 50 state surveys, yes.
Yes. And that term issue is completely correct. I ran across that. You used to be able to do various marijuana laws with this tool. Now there's too many and it fritzes it. But with CBD oil and stuff like that, some places use CBD oil or the non-abbreviated term for CBD oil, which
Inevitable, something like that.
Yeah, the scientific term. And other jurisdictions use the phrase non-THC hemp products instead. It's weird, but you don't know until you start looking around at all of these different vocabularies. Next slide, please. So Bloomberg also has some 50 state survey tools. this is the main page of Bloomberg Law right here. You can see we can just click on this state law chart builder, or you can search in the search bar for chart builder. And then that will take you to a list of all of the different kinds of chart builders. So here under healthcare, we have coverage of abortion services, which is an area that is in the news a lot recently. So let's click on that. And then you can see I can pick and choose. So I could either do all of the states, I could do all of the states in our region, and it gives me a list of some different topics in this area, like the applicable law, whether or not it's covered by various insurances. And then it's essentially creating that chart for me. So it's kind of a pre-made chart here. And then again, same thing, I get a statute that is applicable for each state. I wouldn't want to trust this as the be all end all. I would definitely look at what statutes are around it just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But again, great place to start, cuts a lot of time.
And when I'm setting one up, I will usually use something like this where it make a table and keep your stuff in there, because then you can list all of your states down so you're sure you don't miss one. It may not be the way you want to present it when you're done, but it does help you to kind of organize yourself as you're growing.
Yes, definitely. I do it in an Excel spreadsheet because that's how my brain works.
Yep.
But Excel or tables are great for presenting this information while you're keeping track of it yourself. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've talked about everything you need to know before you get there. What do you do once you get there? As soon as you get there? This is hard for me. The first thing we suggest is that you always carry a paper and pen. I am a millennial. I'm an old millennial. It's hard, but you got to do it. You can't just write on your phone. They don't like that. It looks disrespectful. It looks like you're texting your friends. Perhaps my co-presenters will have more thoughts about this.
Mm-hmm. Paper's the way to go. You can use, you also will look so official if you walk around with a legal pad. Be what you want to be. So, and it is that way. If somebody stops you, if somebody sees you, in the cafeteria or whatever, you're ready to go whenever.
We also suggest that you ask informed questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but ask informed questions. What have you looked around at already before you tried to figure this out? Or before you interrupted someone else? You looked in the shared drive, you didn't find anything. You looked on the website, you didn't find anything. Now what? Now you're asking an informed question. Any other comments?
And don't be afraid to ask a question. Really don't be afraid. They would rather, the folks that you're working with would rather you ask them than spend a whole lot of time on something that is a rabbit hole, or just going in directions that aren't helpful.
There's nothing worse than turning in your project and finding out you misunderstood the initial question, you did the wrong thing. That's the worst. So,
And if there's a librarian, absolutely go hang out with the librarian and say, here's the question, because the library is going to be the safest place in the firm. We all want, everybody in the law library wants you to get your job. They want your 8-week job interview to go great. So we want you to get hired. So we want to help you to succeed, to do the very best that you can.
And this goes back, I will tell a short story. This goes back to asking what resources the firm uses, and commonly that might be special or unique. Here, I was a law student at UGA. I was writing my 2L note. I was just throwing things into Westlaw and Lexis and writing whatever came back. I tell this story a lot. I worked for about 40 hours on my law school note, and then I showed it to one of our librarians here, who has since retired, and she goes, "This is great. You've essentially rewritten everything NIMR on copyright has to say about this from scratch."
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Oh my God.
And
she showed me the treatise,
Mhm.
And sure enough, I had spent 40 hours writing what was already in the treatise right there.
Yeah.
So
Yes, somebody who knows a whole lot more about this than you do has already written a book.
yep.
So feel free to use that brilliant work they've already done.
And our last tip for our first part of soft skills is they may leave you alone, especially at the beginning. They may take some time to give you projects. And if they do that, I would find some way to get busy. In the restaurant industry, they have the phrase, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. Well, there's no leaning when you're sitting at your desk, but you can find something to read that
Mhm.
will expand your knowledge of the firm or the practice area. There may be a shared drive with some draft contracts. You can jump on the legal news on Bloomberg or on the Daily Report, something.
Yep. Texting, not awesome. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It looks bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, as soon as you get your assignment. This is really important because you're going to be probably dealing with people who are my age, and we may have communication issues. So if I say I need it by Wednesday, and you think that's great, I have till midnight on Wednesday, I mean 5 o'clock on Wednesday. And if it's on my desk at 6, it's late. So don't just ask when is it due, ask what time, what day, and what time do you need it by. And also a useful thing here is under promise and over deliver. If they say, when do you think you can have this by? Give yourself a little more time than you think you need and work really hard to turn it in early, and then you look good. And make sure you know what they're asking for. We call this the deliverable. Is it a memo? Is it a pleading? Do they just want a list of cases or statutes? What exactly is the form of the thing that they're asking you to do? And ask if the firm has a memo bank or a place where they collect previously drafted stuff that you can look at to see what the forms look like.
Mhm. And this is a really good time to ask a lot of questions. Is there history that I need to know about this? Are there people I can't ask about this? You may have reasons, sometimes the easiest thing would be to call the clerk's office and ask them a question. But maybe we don't want the clerk's office or somebody in the government, or you went and talked to somebody in the county government or whatever. We may not want them to know that we're asking this question yet. So make sure that you're not, that you're getting an idea of what the world is that you need to operate within.
And also on the overpromise and underdeliver, or sorry, other way around. Underpromise and overdeliver. Give yourself time to make the deliverable pretty. Like give yourself time to edit, give yourself time to format if necessary. It can take longer than you think it will.
And it's much better to turn it in first thing in the morning than last thing at night. Because if you try to turn it at 5 o'clock at the end of the day, you're sure to have missed an obvious typo. And if you take one more look at it first thing the next morning, you'll see it and be able to fix it.
And ask the librarians if they might want to take a look at it for you. Just to see that it covers what you're asking it to cover, that you haven't missed anything big. Because again, the librarians want you to succeed.
If I were to tell you there was one simple thing that you could do that would smooth your path and make your life this summer wonderful, would you do it? It's really easy. Be nice. And the lower down the person is, the nicer you need to be. Janitors, security guards, legal secretaries, and court clerks are the people who own the keys to the kingdom. And if you're nice to them and make friends with them, they can do all kinds of wonderful things to help you. Hi, I'm Heather. I'm the law clerk from the University of Georgia. I've never filed a motion before. Can you help me understand what the steps are? They will bend over backwards to help you. These people get yelled at by overworked, highly stressed attorneys all day, every day. Be the one person in their life that they smile when they see you coming.
kindness matters in this world and in the world of law more than you can imagine.
Bonus tip, you can always come ask us too. We are here for you. We're here for you over the summer. We're here for you after you graduate. The reference desk will be 9 to 5 all summer long. You can call us, you can chat us, you can email us. We are here. We will help.
And we have one more thing to show you, which is that Sarah gave us some wonderful documents that we're going to figure out how to put somewhere. One is this awesome worksheet for assignments. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is all the things she was just talking about. What's the question? What do I need to know? Names, dates, jurisdiction, terms of art. Are there people with whom I cannot discuss this? That's the really important one. So here is a handy dandy form where you can take all these notes on your pencil and paper that you carry with you, and we're going to figure out where to put this so that we can share it with you. And the other one is tips for
One
CPAC.
of the things you'll notice on that document, I had a list for where did you go, what resources did you use, and what searches did you run? Because if you're having trouble, somebody can say, oh, well, you looked in these places, but what you really needed to do was look here. And also, if you're not finding anything, sometimes it's not like law school. So in law school, often when you're given a research assignment, they need something that can be graded. So there will be an answer. Sometimes when you're in the world of law, when you're dealing with summer associates, you are going to have sometimes where they want you to find that there's nothing. They mean for you to find that. And no is an answer. It's not the answer you want, but it's an answer.
Only if it's well documented, though.
Yes, but it must be well documented. You have to be able to say, I looked at all of these places. And also, if you're floundering, stop. Do 40 hours to rewrite NIMR. Not helpful.
Yeah.
So stop. Say, what am I missing? There's something that I'm missing. There's got to be something. And somebody smarter than you about this topic wrote a book.
I really like the 10-minute rule for Lexis Westlaw and Bloomberg too, because that's how you don't spend too much money. Because if you haven't found it in the first 10 minutes, keeping looking isn't going to help because you're probably barking up the wrong tree or going down the wrong rabbit hole. Stop, rethink your whole research plan and try something completely different.
And don't be afraid to use the databases. That you've been told that they're expensive, whatever. Don't be afraid of them, but use them well. I like to say that it's like a chainsaw. If you need to take down a giant tree,
gotta use
a chainsaw is an awesome tool. If you are trying to take down a sapling, a chainsaw is not going to help and is likely to take your arm off. So use the right tool for the job.
I'll also hit number 2, go to training. I'm new to the Georgia scene. I've just come back from DC. But when I would talk to the law firm librarians up in DC, they would just be so adamant. Please, anytime, a lot of times when they had questions, the answer that they would think in their heads would be, yes, we did a training on this. So you have the documentation somewhere. So.
And a lot of this is the same as in college. Go to office hours. If somebody offers you the opportunity to talk to them, take them up on it. If you get the benefit of the doubt if you have made yourself somebody that they believe should get the benefit of the doubt. And there is very little that you can do to completely pooch this, I promise. When I one of my very first classes of summer associates, Summer was sitting in the library. He was working hard on something, and he backed his chair up directly into the groin of the managing partner.
Oh no.
He still got an offer, you know, because he was doing good work. He was trying his best. And, you know, stuff happens. So don't worry too much. And take them up on opportunities to meet people. If there's a softball, we were talking about this as we were getting started. If there's a softball league, join the softball. You know, do things that make you not just somebody that they see as a problem.
Let them get to know you as a person. That's as important as the work you're doing.
So there's that tip that I was talking about earlier. Don't rely exclusively on full text searching. Use your head notes, use your topics, use your key numbers, use your indexes, because you don't know what you don't know yet. So it's hard to come up for search terms when you don't know vocabulary.
And head notes and key numbers are criminally undervalued. They really matter. What can you do with a head note? You can move to a different jurisdiction. It's amazing. I only found this good case in Idaho. Well, look what we can do. You know, try it. And don't be afraid of it. Just because it's the old way to do it doesn't mean it's a bad way to do it.
Yeah, I particularly like number 5. If your library has books, look at the books. Oh, and don't forget number 9.
Yep.
Now, we were talking a little bit before we started. Sarah, you do not know about what this summer is going to look like. I expect that is common everywhere. Who knows how fast we're going to get back to a traditional summer setting. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
About what? So, you know, typically summer looked like you were there, you did your work, you went out for beers with people, you did all the social stuff, you went to the ball game, all that stuff. This is going to be a lot more alone time than you might want. Firms are starting to reopen. They're starting to get people back in offices, but we don't know what it's going to look like. So you're going to have to do your best to keep yourself visible, and to not bring additional frustration to other people. This is a year where you know everyone's already frustrated, so but asking a question is not bringing frustration. Asking a question is saying, oh, okay, I wasn't clear about that. I needed to provide you with something. I assumed you knew something that you didn't know. People do that. People expect that you know things. And if you don't know, it's okay. Because every partner was once a summer.
A good rule of thumb is, what can I do to make my boss's life easier?
So I think that's all the formal tips we had prepared.